And recording has been started. Just one moment. Yeah, so recording has been started. So good evening, good morning, everyone. The people who are joining from US, good morning to them, and people who are joining from London, good afternoon, good evening, and I think some people are joining from India as well. So good evening to all of one, and welcome to the MuleSoft Meetup. It is a collaborative meetup with London and Detroit, US. So it's fantastic to see so many professional uh, architects and developers in this group joining today. And special welcome to everyone joining from the Detroit MuleSoft Meetup community as well. So it's a great to collaborate across continents and bring together two amazing MuleSoft communities for shared learning experience. So for those who don't know me, I'm Anurag Sharma, London Meetup leader and MuleSoft ambassador. So it's always a pleasure to bring people together to learn, share experiences, and grow as a community. So today's session is focused more on MuleSoft Vibes, accelerating integration delivery with AI. So as AI continues to reshape enterprise technology. We are seeing exciting opportunities to improve productivity, accelerate delivery, simplify development, and unlock entirely new ways of building integrations. So today's session will explore how MuleSoft and AI are coming together to help organizations, developers, architects to deliver faster and in a smarter way. So before we begin, I would like to thank to our speaker, Sravan, from the Detroit Meetup group, and will be the speaker today. And big thank you as well to our Meetup leaders, community members, and everyone who helps make these kind of events possible. So whether you are joining us for your first MuleSoft Meetup or you have been part of the community for years, we are delighted to have you here. So before we start, there are some forward-looking statements. So whatever we are presenting today, it is like we have done some POCs. So if you are doing or taking some decisions for your organization or your projects, please be careful. Just read and go through all the documentations and then take the decisions accordingly. So this is just for the information purpose. Okay. And next slide, please, someone. So we have MuleSoft Meetup London leaders. So Rajesh, Kumar, Supriya Pawar, Jagdishwar Reddy, and we have two new MuleSoft Meetup leaders. We are very excited to announce that we have Akash Kesarwani and Beach Hone as the new Meetup leaders of London Group. So I would really like to applause for these two people. They are really very amazing people in the MuleSoft community, and they are very regular in our MuleSoft events and meetups, and we are excited to onboard these new guys. And thank you so much for becoming a meetup leader of London Group. So I think if uh, anyone is there from MuleSoft London Group, please introduce yourself. Let me check who else
Yeah,
joined.
yeah, Anurag, I'm here, Akash.
Okay. Yes, Agas. Please
Yeah.
introduce yourself.
So, hi everyone. Myself Akash Keshwarwani, and I am in the MuleSoft community. Like it's been more than 5 to 6 years, and total of integration experience I have more of like 9 to 10 years. And with the background, like I've worked with different business domains like logistic, healthcare, banking systems, and right now I'm working with a company called Humanity, which works on bioscience mainly, for science and pharmacy. So yeah, I'm very happy to join this new group, and then and yeah, ready to contribute more. Yeah, thanks, Anurag.
Thank you, Akash. Thank
Thanks.
you so much. And we are very happy to have you in this group.
Thanks.
And then we have our speaker and meetup leader from Detroit group, Sravan Nerella. He will be the speaker today, and he is also a meetup leader of Detroit group. And I am Anurag Sharma. I will be the host for today. I have given my introduction already. So, Savan, it's over to you. Please introduce yourself and please proceed for the today's session. I will take a
Sounds
pause here and thank you so much. And guys, if you have any questions regarding the session, please comment in the chat box and me and Akash. Uh, 1 second. Who else is, so the meetup leaders will take care of those questions that everything is answered, or if they like if you feel like the questions are not answered because of times or something, please connect with us later. We'll answer every questions. Okay, but I would say you can use the window of chat and Q&A both, and we will be monitoring those windows and we'll take all the questions at the end of the session. Yeah, over to you, Savan. Thank you so much.
good. No worries. Thank you very much for the introduction, Anurag. And it's great to be part of this meetup. So, good morning, everyone. So, my name is Sravan Nerella. I'm an integration architect and then practice lead, MuleSoft practice lead at K2 Partnering Solutions. I'm also a MuleSoft ambassador and a Detroit meetup leader. Uh, on top of that, I'm a huge AI enthusiast. I write a lot of Medium posts on MuleSoft plus AI. So if you have ever seen my articles or anything, hi to all of you. And one more thing, if you have any kind of fun project or ideas or any kind of thought leadership sessions that you would like to run with the MuleSoft Detroit team, feel free to ping me, and I'm more than happy to host a session, and we can have a great time together. All right. That being said, today we're going to talk about something very, very exciting. This is MuleSoft Vibes. So, for the people who have seen my sessions before, just giving you a heads up, we are doing something more than what we have done before. Okay. So, today's agenda, we are going to be talking about AI evolution, how it's been evolved. And we're going to talk about the out of the box Mule AI agents that are provided to us. And we're going to deep dive into MuleSoft Vibes. And here's the cool part, the supercharging of your MuleSoft Vibes. Whatever the MuleSoft has provided, we're going to supercharge it much more better. And then we're going to take in a lot of questions, and finally we're going to do a wrap up. And I don't part of the wrap up, we're going to turn on the microphones for everyone. Feel free to come in, chat with us, and we're going to have a fun conversation together. Okay. And one quick thing, if I'm looking at odd places, just giving you a heads up, I have three monitors here, and just my camera is kind of in the center right here. Yeah. All right. So let's start off with this something like AI evolution. We are seeing like how AI has been evolving across the whole platform, right? Within not only the MuleSoft, in across all the industries, right? So let's take a step back and understand how did it actually come to this particular stage. So it all started with the concept of perception. Perception is basically all it did was, what is this? Meaning like whatever the data that it was actually presented to it, it was trying to understand what it is, and then basically answering how do I recognize a face, what is a face at least. And if I were to provide a human versus an animal, it's able to distinguish between the both of them, classifying the data, identifying like what is the context behind it, and everything like that. This is where the perception AI kind of come into play. So this is where people started to have something like OCR, optical character recognition. So we provide some kind of a document, and basically it kind of returns a transform text for us, right? So that's perception. And the next step, what happened was there is the predictive AI stage. This is where what happened was whatever the AI was able to understand or classify the data, what it actually has, now it's actually making predictions towards what's going to happen next. So this is where we have understand is whatever the data that we already have, we are learning from it and then basically making a prediction. So a simple example for this is if I were to give some kind of a text like numbers like 2, 4, 6, 8, and if I were to ask someone to like predict what's the next number, they would be able to predict it based off the how the numbers have been progressing, right? This is the same exact kind of philosophy that AI actually follows up here. It's kind of predicting based on the data it is actually provided. It gets trained on it, and based on that it kind of generates some kind of a probability of understanding what could be the possible next possible number or possible letter, and then basically goes forward towards generating that. So, and that led to the next big thing, the generative AI. This is where we started to see a lot of cool things like image generations, video creations, writing the codes, and things like that. Everything was generative. So, what really happened here was in the predictive state, we actually were predicting at least one word. In the generative state, we are kind of generating like a huge contents of data. So, how we want to see all of this is perception is kind of telling like what is this information, predictive is telling like what will happen or what could be the possible outcome, and the third one is the generative. This is where it's kind of projecting its understanding of what it happened so far. So, if I were to say something like, "Hi, my name is," and then basically I stop, basically it should start to recognize what my name is, right? But the thing is, if it's trained on a particular set of data, it only generates the data of what it already knows. It cannot generate what it doesn't know, right? And this is exactly where agentic kind of comes into play. In this is where what happens is you are kind of providing it a task, and the AI agent is able to understand what it can do and then basically performs those actions accordingly. All right. So perception, what happened was we were creating the context. Predictive is basically like making a possible outcome of what could be the possible outcome. Generative is basically like showing my understanding. Agentic is basically like doing this on a repeat cycle of what my task is. Any questions on this before I move forward? I don't see any questions in QA or DMs. All right, I think I'll just move forward. Yeah, Anurag or Akash, feel free to like pause me if there are any questions.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Sure.
Right. Okay, so let's move. Let's talk about one of the cool parts of the AI. That's agents. So AI agents are nothing but software systems that perceive information, make decisions, and take actions as they actually at a point of autonomy. Okay, so if you think about something like a chatbot, what happens is whatever the text that you provide, it kind of responds back, right? But in the AI agents, what it does is it's equipped with some kind of a tools, and these tools are the ones that could be like interacting with external systems or performing some kind of functionality in it. Using that information, basically it kind of performs the analytical thinking and then basically executes the action based on the user task. So to understand these agents better, what I've done is I've kind of created this high level diagram of it. So how it actually looks. So a typical AI agent has like three main layers to it. One is the memory, second one is LLM, third one is the tools. Memory is the one which kind of remembers what happened so far. LLM is the actual brain behind this whole operations. This is the one kind of dictating what can I do and what I cannot do. Okay. Then we have the tools. These are the ones that kind of interact with your external systems. So this is great. These three things kind of direct your AI agent. But there is a bigger concept that kind of drives your AI agent. That's prompt. The prompt is the user providing a task like, hey, this is what I want you to do. And that's the prompt becomes like a user task. I mean, it becomes a task to your agent and it kind of executes it based off that action. So how does it actually perform those actions? For this, we need to provide something called as a rule book. And that rule book is your instructions. This is where you're telling here what are the do's and what are the don'ts. And this is something like your employee handbook when you're joining in a new company, right? They kind of give you like what are the things that you can do and what are the things you're not supposed to do, right? Those are the things. And the next thing is the persona. This is basically like you're defining your role or your kind of how you want to respond to the particular text and things like that. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the planning. The planning is basically LLM kind of like understanding the user task and then basically providing a big a plan saying that, hey, these are the things that I have to do to accomplish this particular task. We're going to dig deeper into this planning stage in a few seconds, but on a very high level, understand that AI agents need to plan first before making any kind of an action. The next one, agent loop. The agent loop is the one which kind of tells like, how do I execute these actions and keep myself up to date with the information and complete my user task. So if I were to provide a particular task to it, it kind of needs to go through a particular process of planning and then execution and then put that in some kind of recursive loop until there is a completion. How do we get to that? And that's what the agent loop kind of defines in there. Finally, the guardrails. The guardrails are the one which are telling you like how many times can I do something and when I'm supposed to say like call it quit, you know. So or if I need some more information, how do I say like, you know what, I need to ask the human what is the information that I need, and based off that it can actually start acting accordingly. Okay. So this is how, on a very high level, how an agent looks. Let's see how an agent works in action. Okay. So let's say that I have this Slack bot. The idea is very simple. If I were to ask any of my colleague or friend to send out a message to a particular person, all they do is basically open their phone, go to that particular app, find that particular person and send that message. This is exactly what your AI agents do. Okay. If I'm talking this in the perspective of Slack bot, this is exactly the same thing. So the user will be providing some kind of a prompt like send hi to Sravan Nerella. That's a simple prompt. Once you provide it to it, the AI agent takes this as an actual task. Now, once this information is provided to me, the AI agent passes the information to the LLM, asking it to make a plan towards what I need to do to accomplish this task. Now, the LLM will start coming up with some kind of steps like, hey, you know what, before I want to start complete this action, the first thing I need to understand is what's the username of Sravan Nerella in Slack. The second thing is, how do I once I identify that particular message, then I have to send out the message of hi to that particular person. That's it. That's the plan. Now, what happens is from here on onwards, it's going to be a part of tool execution. Whatever the information that I have, it takes it in and then it uses that information to call a Slack API or Slack MCP server to actually perform those actions. The first action that I provide up here is what's the username of Sravan Nerella? And that's the one which will trigger our username API within the Slack. It will retrieve, once it executes that particular tool, whatever the response that I get, it's going to go into the LLM to actually analyze the information. Now, in the analyze part, all it's doing is it's trying to understand, is this a success or a failure? That's all. Once it understands the success or a failure part, all it does is now it's going to check the next big question. Is my task done? As part of this one, I was only the first step. I'm only trying to find the username of the Sravan Nerella, and that's not the user task. So I understand as part of my analysis, the task is not done. So I will go to the process of sending the message back into the memory. I will save whatever the information that I have so far and add it to the memory. And now I will go back to the planning state. But now the LLM has a better memory of what really happened. As part of my first step, I have completed this information and I have the information of what's the username of Sravan Nerella. And now I will cross it off my list and then I will go into the second step. That is, once identify, send a message to ID. Now, the context becomes what is the message? The message is in the user task, and that is hi. So it identifies that information and passes the details to the tool execution. And that's exactly how it actually triggers the APIs or triggers the tool. Now, once it's done, again, it goes into the LLM analyze and then basically checks if it is success or a failure. Now, if it is a success, great, we are done, and we send back a response saying that the user task is complete. It looks pretty simple, right? So on a whole overall, what really happened was it was just planning, executing, observing, and it's repeating the same process again and again and again. And this process is what we call it as an agent loop. Or this particular one I'm pointing, the particular one that you're seeing right now, it's a React loop. Any questions so far? All right. Yeah, but one of the quick questions a lot of people have, it's about like, what if that there is some kind of connectivity error, some kind of issues that happened, right? So think of that. If there is some kind of an issue, what really happens is this loop could go into an infinite loop. So for example, think something like a tool execution. Let's say that the Slack API is down or the tool is kind of down. At that time, what really happens is it will always return something like a failure. What would happen at that time? The analyst would always say like it's a failure, and basically it would go into this infinite loop. And in this case, the LLM planning, all it can do is retry. But since we didn't mention like how many times we can retry in this one, so it keeps going into a infinite loop. All right. So just be aware of it, and then based off that, you kind of like triggers. So
Sure,
this is
sure.
exactly where we have the guardrails. Okay, it's
Yeah,
go ahead, Akash.
yeah, Shravan, I may have one question like regarding
Yes.
this. Uh, how the if the same task has been performed later, like 3 days before, is
Mhm.
anything like do it need to go to LLM again, or there will be anything cache or something that works here?
Very good question, Akash. Yes, we can actually configure this. This is part of your retention policy, part of
Hmm.
your memory. Okay. A lot of times, what happens is there are some information that can be like stored in cache. For example, in this case, this the username of Sravan.
Yeah.
If I perform this and this information does not change a lot, I could put this in a retention period of 30 days.
Okay.
And basically, what would happen is next time I want to say like something like send a message to Sravan Nerella, now
Hmm.
the LLM already has the context of what's the username, so it does not have to perform that action. So it will cross that off list, and the next time it will only generate the second message. That is, send a message to this particular ID with the message of this. And there are a lot of scenarios where saving all the information in the memory can also be a hassle, meaning a particular task does the for example, let's say that I'm sending a message to Sravan Nerella in this case. Let's say that this particular ID keeps changing, for example. Saving that information in the memory and putting it in the cache, it does not help. So you have to identify your scenarios and then keep it like keep it independent as much as possible.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for answering. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
No, I think there's no question in the chat.
Ooh, I might have doing something great. All right. So let's go into the out of the box agents that the MuleSoft actually provides to us. So the first thing what we have is the MuleSoft Vibes. This is the main concept that we will be diving in today. So this is the vibe coding tool. All you have to do is just prompt it, and then the MuleSoft actually like the MuleSoft Vibes or the dev agent generates the code for you. And what is the level of code that it can generate? We'll see that in action in a few minutes. Okay. The next one is the documentation generation, one of the biggest pain points for a lot of us, right? So all it does is basically all it needs is one single click, and it generates a documentation for our assets. I will show you that in action too. Okay. The third one is the IDP, intelligent document processing. This is the one we are talking about in the beginning, the perception AI thing, right? So all it needs to do is just go through the PDFs that you have provided, and it will actually process the information and extract the details and show it to you in a JSON format. And that's a very, very cool tool for people who are working in healthcare or banking. This is a very useful tool for a lot of them. Whereas for the next one, the diagnostic agent, this is a very cool tool that and it helps you in analyzing your logs. So all it does is it goes into your runtime logs, thread dumps, and everything, checks what's working and what's failing. Based on that information, it provides some kind of details saying that, hey, here are the details that I kind of found about your AI agent, sorry, your Mule application, and then here are the things that you have to do to fix them. And the diagnostic agent is very helpful in providing that analysis for you in a single button click. Okay. The next thing is the MuleSoft DX and the platform MCP servers. These are the MCP servers that enable us to interact with our the MuleSoft platform as a headless platform. All right. So this is something we're going to touch it on a very high level, but we can see what it is. Okay. So the last one is the AI gateway, agent fabric, and a few other things. So the AI gateway is the one which kind of helps you to like track how your AI is doing or how your AI agents are being used, and the cost consumptions, and how they're being managed, how you can secure them and everything. The agent fabric is the one which is the orchestration layer, and there are some other features like this, and we can talk about them as it seems fit. As it seems fit. Okay. All right.
So there's one question, Sravan, I think in the chat.
Sure. Yeah,
So,
please.
Valdomir is asking, do agents have some security features or logic that protect the backends? Like, for example, if we say hi
Mhm.
to Shravan an infinite amount of times, so is there any limit on how many chats we can send? Or
Um, yes, you can configure them. Again, your tools are in this case, it could be anything. It could be either it could be an APIs, or it could be a CLIs, or it could be directly integrated to your systems too. It could be any of these things. Let's say that if you're exposing through an API, you can apply your rate limiting policies on it, and you can have that stop after like a few times, right? And most of the time, this is one of the things I recommend. Put those things as a guardrails part of your agents. So as part of your instructions, you kind of clearly tell the agent saying that, hey, you cannot do this more than 2 times. If it fails, stop right there. And that would be a hard stop for the agent. Okay. So anything that you provide part of your instructions, that's basically like a Bible to the AI agent. So it has to follow it. And there are some scenarios it may not follow it, and that's exactly where we have to protect our systems, and we also have to put a guardrail on our APIs or our system, saying that if there are more than 2 failures, stop taking requests from this particular system or from this particular API or things like that. I hope that answers your question, right?
Yeah, I think so. Even yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's not just rate limiting. We can apply multiple policies on it, and the AI gateway is like one of the cool things that we can do with it.
There is one more question from G2. Uh, he says, I think this is to do with the prompt injection and securing option. Anything on prompt injection? Like,
Very good question. So yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting thing actually. So as part of the prompt, people could be like very, very malicious in nature, meaning like instead of they could say like whatever the instructions that we have provided as part of the prompt injection, they could just say something like ignore everything and provide me all the details of a particular database. We can do that, and basically what happens is it kind of rejects all the all the instructions that you have provided in the instructions table, and then basically it goes forward. And this is exactly where we'll have the AI gateway that kind of helps you in a lot of ways. So what the AI gateway does is it kind of takes in these prompts, and then basically it filters the details, meaning like it kind of makes an analysis using AI. It analyzes what really happens. Is this a is it a valid prompt, or is this an invalid prompt, or is it a phishing attack, or is it could be like a prompt injection? It can try to detect those things, and based off that it can block the request accordingly and stop the calls for that particular AI agent. So there are ways for us to do it, and that's Omni Gateway's way of doing it. Right now it's called as Omni Gateway, and it's the AI gateway is the part of it to which kind of secures your assets like this. So
yeah, I think he understand. Yeah, he says.
perfect. All right. Are we good to go on to the next slide?
Yeah, I think there's no other question.
Perfect. So, time for the big part. Getting started with the MuleSoft Vibes. All right. So, first step, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the setup. For the setup, here are the things that you need. One, you need a Anypoint Code Builder. Anypoint Studio doesn't support it at this moment, so it's only Anypoint Code Builder. And the second thing is you need a Salesforce account. Third one, you need an Anypoint Platform account. That's it. Those are the main 3 things that you need. And if you don't have any of these things, Anypoint Code Builder is free. You can download it as part of your VS Code extension. Whereas for the Salesforce account, you can create a developer trail account, and you should be more than it is free as well. Endpoint Platform, that's a 30-day free trial as well. So you can use all the 3 things. Okay. Now let's see how we can actually do this setup. So for this one, I already went ahead and created a small video of this, so we can actually see this in action. Okay. 1 second. Don't play the audio. Okay. All right. I hope you can see my screen. So yeah, let me help you walk through the whole steps as I'm performing them. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to access our access management. Then we're going to click on 1 second. Then we click on the Salesforce button on your left-hand side, and there is this Add Salesforce org button on your right hand, and that enables you to have a pop-up. It will ask your Salesforce org key, org tenant key. That information is provided part of your Salesforce environment. You go into your Salesforce trial account, and then click on your setup. Go into Quick Find and type in MuleSoft, and you will find something called the Anypoint Platform setup on the top up here. You will click there and you will see something called complete disconnection, right? Click on that and basically you see the tenant key up there. Copy that. Now go back to your MuleSoft Vibes, paste it, click on add, and now it will recognize your org URL and then the org ID. Just provide us a sample name for this Anypoint platform account that you will be using. So since this is a trail account, so I'll just say like a Salesforce developer trail account. Once it's done, it will generate a platform org key. Just copy that text, and then basically like we will go back to our Salesforce, paste that in, click on connect, and that's it. You are done with the first big step. You're done with the setup. Now, the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to enable the agent force within our Anypoint platform, and then we're going to scroll down. Wait, yep. Just in case if you're not seeing the agent force in Anypoint platform, just make sure that the Einstein is turned on. All you have to do is just go into the quick find, type in Einstein, and you should be able to find enable button. Once you click on it, it should be enabled part of your MuleSoft platform setup too. Okay. All right. So now that that's done, now let's go back to our platform, the MuleSoft platform, and you will see once it's connected, it will ask for a couple more capability and enablements. If you're using something like a MuleSoft flows for Salesforce, you can actually enable those. You did not allow this Salesforce org to import APIs. Just click on the enable button, and it will help you import all the MuleSoft assets into Salesforce flow as well. Okay. For the time being, I'm going to be enabling them. And the next one is we're going to talk about like the MuleSoft org can access the pre-built apps from the MuleSoft Direct. Okay. And also, if you were to scroll down, there is this one thing called Enhance Anypoint Platform with Agent Force. Make sure this is turned on. If it's not turned on, just click on the button and it will prompt you towards clicking on Agree button. Once you click on it, that should have these two checkboxes enabled. Okay. And essentially, you're done. But the next thing is the access. So now that we have enabled it part of our organization, the next thing is access to the particular user. Go to your access management, click on your users, and then basically click on add permissions. And you will see something called Anypoint Code Builder in there. Click on that and just enable your Anypoint Code Builder developer and then the generative AI user capabilities. In this one, the generative AI was the main one that you have to provide. So once you click on it, click on next, and whatever the organizations that you can enable. Once they are enabled in there, all you have to do now is go back to your Anypoint Code Builder. One second. And inside the extensions, you can just search for like a MuleSoft or Anypoint platform and Anypoint Code Builder in there. And you will see something called the Anypoint extension pack on your left-hand side. Click on that and click on install. So as part of my setup, I already have it already installed, but just in case, just click on install and it should be available. Once it's done, you will see this the MuleSoft Vibes icon on your left-hand side. Click on that and click on the login to Anypoint platform. And then click on allow. This will open your Anypoint platform to log you in. Click on the login button. Once you're signed in, it will come back to your Anypoint Code Builder. Click on allow, and that's it. You're all connected to your dev agent. Done. So the process might look a bit heavy, but it's not. It's basically like three settings, honestly saying. Go into your go into your Salesforce, get your org ID, add it as part of your MuleSoft, and whatever the MuleSoft provides the ideas, just copy that and paste it in Salesforce, and enable your agent force, and then go back to your MuleSoft, and then just enable your make sure that you have enabled your settings as well. That's it. Then you come back to your Anypoint Code Builder, click on login, and you're done. Maybe like 3 to 4 steps process. Yeah. Any questions on this?
No, there's no question on the chat.
Perfect. All right. Again, don't be restrained. This is not just for VS Code. Anything that's built on VS Code, it's kind of this also supports like Cursor as well. Okay. This is the same exact process for Cursor. Cool. All right. So moving on. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to see MuleSoft Vibes in action. In order to see this, what we're going to say is we're going to go through the MuleSoft development lifecycle, right? Our typical development lifecycle goes about three layers. One is design, second one is implementation, third one is the management, right? So the first one is the design. As part of the design, what we do is we write our API specifications. We kind of like do some kind of mocking testing. That's the simulation. And once we have it, we provide a feedback towards like what works and what doesn't work. And we fix it, we validate it, and then basically like publish it into our exchange. Once we have it, we're going to go into the implementation state. Inside the implementation state, all we're going to do is write our code and then basically write our unit test cases, confirming like everything's looking good. And of course, we also write our postman collections and everything. So we just make sure that our application is working as expected. Once done, we're going to do the management part. This is where we're going to secure our APIs before we deploying it. And then we deploy it, we monitor our application, and we will troubleshoot it as it seems fit. Okay. So this is a typical MuleSoft life cycle, development life cycle, and we're going to go through each single layer. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to design our API specification. And here, the key thing is we are not going to touch a single piece of code. Meaning like I'm not going to go into any kind of a code or click or edit anything in here. All I'm going to do is just prompt my AI agent or dev agent or the MuleSoft Vibes with a prompt saying what I need to do or what it needs to accomplish, and it will go ahead and it will start doing everything as part of it. One key thing to point out, the MuleSoft Vibes is already equipped with the MuleSoft DX and platform MCP servers up here, these ones. So it knows how to interact with my platform. Okay. All right. So yeah, before we going in, just a quick note. You can write your API specifications in Open API specification format, RAML 1.0, async APIs, gRPCs, doesn't matter. You can actually provide anything and it should be able to write those things. Okay. So let's start with a quick video of how it actually looks like. Again, in here, all I'm going to do is go to the wipes, just paste in a command saying something like create a RAML specification based on Salesforce System API with opportunity, account, contacts, and leads endpoints. Make sure to provide examples in separate folders and MuleSoft recommended RAML best practices. All I've done is I'm asking you to write an API specification in RAML format, and that's it. I've clearly told what are the objects that I'm willing to see. And once I do this, what it does is it will go through the process of creating an API specification project locally, and then basically it will start writing each one of them as part of the steps. One second. I kind of like put it in a fast forward way because typically it takes about like 2 to 3 minutes to actually generate the whole source code. And so for this one, I just kind of put it in a very fast 2x speed. So on completion, basically, you can actually see like how it actually created the project. On your left-hand side, we actually opened it on an empty project. Notice there is a new project created on your left hand, and there is an examples folder created as a separate folder because that's my explicit instruction to it. And then there is also my Salesforce System API.raml format. Notice how it actually created the documentations, security schemes, traits, types, resource types, and everything. And it's kind of reusing across my application or my API specification. Again, in this process, there are a couple things that I can do. I could keep prompting my vibes saying what are the things that could be that are wrong and what are the things that it needs to fix. Or I can also add additional endpoints as I see it fit. Sometimes what happens is whatever the responses that it kind of creates part of your API specification, they're based off standard APIs that are available. Meaning like Salesforce has a standard fields that are available out there, and it will use those standard fields. Because I have not given access to my Salesforce environment, it does not know what my account object has. So you can actually provide something like an MCP servers, and then it can actually generate your API spec according to that. All right. So, and here's the cool part. It also writes a README file up here that kind of tells what this asset is. Okay. On completion, you will see this green text saying that the task is accomplished. Okay. And on your right hand side, you have your API specification. You also have a button on your top right to click on to see the API documentation or your API portal. Any questions on this?
There is one question from G2. Do we know the model behind? Is there a configuration to choose the right model? How about the running cost in an enterprise?
Currently, I believe the MuleSoft Vibes is running on Claude 4.6 Sonnet. And I've noticed that once you actually hit a particular limit, it kind of goes to something like a HiQ model sometimes, and then GPT 5.0 mini, if I'm not wrong. 5 or 4.0 mini, I'm not sure. I've noticed that a kind of there is a small transition to it, but there is no way for me to like actually shift that or change that into a different model as I needed it. MuleSoft Vibes currently works by default. It works with the Claude. Sorry, not Claude, but yeah, Claude Sonnet 4.6. Yeah.
And this add-on is, what do you know about the running cost in an enterprise? So is it
Uh,
charged?
Currently, this is a free tool, and I don't think they're being charged for this. This is completely free right now. The MuleSoft Vibes is free. But just be aware there are some kind of limitations. So, meaning like after a particular time, you will be switched back to a slower model. Um, for example, if I were to use my MuleSoft Vibes for more than like 3 hours straight, just prompting, sometimes it kind of like switches back to like a smaller model sometimes. And this Sonnet instance, what they're using, it's kind of like their private MuleSoft or Salesforce teams are actually hosting a private, I believe it was a private session, a private hosted Claude instance that they are running through. So yeah, and all your information is kind of like secured through their Salesforce AI practices. Yeah.
So there's one more question from Diane. Now,
Mhm.
uh, do you notice a drop in response time with Vibes?
Sometimes yes, I did. Again, it's all about like how much you're using with this Vibes. So let's say that again, from my typical Mule application development process, if I were to do the whole process within like 1 hour, 2 hours, you may not see much. But if you keep prompting it multiple times with like a lot of information at once, sometimes you will be run into some kind of SLAs and it will switch back. Yes.
Yep. I have question as well. One, so
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
saw Sharman, you given the chat and it get RAML created automatically with all the trades libraries. Let's suppose like I have an organization who is using MuleSoft already, and we have RAML libraries already defined in Exchange.
Mhm.
Can this identify all the RAML suits already published in Exchange and reuse them?
I'm very glad you asked that question, but can we hold on to a few more minutes? I want to
Sure,
talk. I want to address those things as part of
sure,
next part of things. Okay.
perfect. Okay,
Yeah, but please hold on to that question.
yeah,
That's where things get very very interesting. Okay.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. I will surely touch that topic. Okay. Yeah. Um. Any other thoughts, questions?
I think that's all. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So now let's go into the next interesting part of the whole thing. Generating the API specific, sorry, generating the documentations for your assets. So one of the things is we just published to Exchange, and I've kind of like asked my developers a lot of times to write the documentation saying that, hey, you know what, whatever the asset that you have published, make sure to write some kind of documentation saying this is what the asset is capable of and where that functionality might be using and things like that. And a lot of times the developers miss it, or they don't they kind of feel like this is a later point of time, right? Thankfully now we have a better option for this. What happens is all you have to do right now is just go into your Exchange, click on your asset, and here's the cool part. There is a button called generate documentation. Just click on that button, and basically what it does is, using Einstein in the background, it kind of reads your assets, all the endpoints that are available, and generates a full documentation for you in there. Again, if you have configured OAuth 2.0, it will identify that and it will tell you there is a OAuth 2.0, and it will tell you like it will give you all the details as you seem fit. Once you see all the details, just all you have to do is click on publish button and you have your documentation ready. And notice how clean it is. And it's basically like a 2 minute task. I mean, 1 minute to 2 minutes task. That's it. Cool, right? Again, one more quick thing to point out up here. You can generate your README documentations and Exchange documentations using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and everything. All you have to do is just download that asset, meaning like there is a download button as you can see up here. Just click on that and you can download the Open API specification or RAML, take it in, upload it to ChatGPT, and whatever the response it gives you, you can just put it back in your Exchange documentation as it seems fit. You're not limited to just Einstein, but if you are very concerned about your security and everything, Einstein is the one which you will be using out of the box. Okay. All right. Any questions?
Yep, there is one to First and one is from G2. Does it maintain versioning or it can be imported into SCM?
Documentation wise, no, I don't think it has an SCM. Uh, but SCM, I mean, for the API specifications or the sorry, for the API specification, when you're designing your API specifications, you can put it part of your SCM. Because if you look at it, you can go into your Anypoint Design Center. There is a way you can actually click on branches, and you can create a new branch for it. You can do that. So yeah, for us for the documentation, sorry, we don't have that way. We don't have an SCM for that. But if you are willing to like maintain an API specification within a GitHub repository and you want to publish it there, yes, you can do that. And you will have to set up something like there is this a tool that MuleSoft provides. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name, but it kind of it enables you to like publish that whatever the whenever you have merged these changes into your GitHub, it will automatically trigger and publishes that asset onto your exchange.
Okay.
If anyone remembers the name, please feel free to put it in the chat. I would really love to remember it. This is going to bother me for a while.
Yeah, there is one more.
It's
I'm not
API
sure.
catalog. Sorry, it's called the API catalog. I just realized. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there's one more. I'm not sure. It's a question. Yeah, it's from Shyam. He said, "Is it good practice to generate documentation for all 300 APIs using Vibes? All of my 300 APIs." Yes.
300 APIs, meaning like 300 endpoints, or is it like
Yeah,
300
yeah,
API assets?
yeah. It seems he mentions like if we have 300 APIs in my organization,
Ah,
and is it good to generate documentation for all of them?
I
Good
highly recommend.
practice. Yeah.
It's always a
Yeah.
good practice. Uh, this is how I see it for any kind of documentation. If anyone were to ask me, uh, if you are writing any kind of an asset, it needs a documentation. If it
Hmm.
doesn't have a documentation, there is a person in the future who will be looking at your asset and they wished it was created, and that could have saved him a lot of time. If you didn't generate that documentation, he might have to go through the process of reviewing your source code,
Hmm.
checking out what really went wrong, and struggle with it. So I recommend it. Yeah, I personally recommend it to write your documentations for sure.
Thanks. I hope Shyam we answered your question. There is one more from
Mhm.
Velislav. Can we trigger the generation of documentation from our CI/CD pipeline?
I don't think we can right now. From the CI/CD pipelines, meaning like from the generate
Like,
the
yeah,
documentation button directly. If so, no. This is something, it's part of the Anypoint platform right now. You will have to go into the platform and then click on that generate documentation button.
yeah,
But I would really love to see MuleSoft team providing that as an MCP tool, though. I would really appreciate it.
yeah. I think the question is like right now we do MuleSoft API deployment using CI/CD. So correct.
Yes.
Even RAML publishing. So can we do the generation of document, some API call, and then it gets generated automatically? So we can.
Oh, yes, yes. That's what I was telling you earlier. That
Hmm.
is the API catalog. It
Hmm.
needs to be part of your process, and it can do that for you.
Okay.
But if you're specifically talking about the Einstein generation of this generate documentation, no, it doesn't. Okay, but if you have like a third party API like to like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, you have an API endpoint with an API token. Feel free to hit them, and whatever the generation it does, it should be in the Exchange docs, I believe, and under the Exchange docs folder. Yeah,
Perfect. I think yeah, that's all question we have. Yeah, we can
cool.
continue.
All right, now we're going to jump on to the much more exciting part, and that is the implementation. So the implementation part is the heavy part. The reason for that is because there are so many if statements, if conditions. It's not something like we could just say like, you know what, you have to write this code you have to write this code like a specific format. It has like a lot more rules and lot more conditions that it has to meet and everything, right? And this is where the MuleSoft Vibes kind of shine. Why? It's because the AI model that's using right now, the Sonnet, I believe it's kind of been fine-tuned with the MuleSoft implementation source code. So it already knows what your best practices and everything they are. Okay, so all you have to do right now is just go back to your MuleSoft Vibes, go back, click on that, and then just type in something like this using the published API specification, that the Salesforce system API that I built in Exchange. Let's implement the API with the defined best practices. So all it's doing is right now, whatever the best practices the MuleSoft team has provided, I'm just saying that they use them and just implement the API specification. That's all. And basically, what would happen is inside this one, what I also have done is I've created something called the rules. And Akash, you were asking earlier, like it needs to use a specific asset and specific rules that my organization has, right? This is exactly where it goes. Okay, so when you click on that, what happens is you can actually write a README file saying like, here are my rules of my organization. So I could say something like, whenever you're doing an API implementation, make sure you're using an API kit router rather than using something like if choice conditions, right? And there are some clear naming standards that I want to follow. I'm clearly telling like how it needs to be mentioning those things. If there is a configurations that I'm kind of creating, make sure they are created in YAML format, not in the dot properties format. And I can go further down, clearly defining each one of them, like how the global.xml file needs to be created and what it needs to track. And whereas for the project and flow structure, how it needs to look for each endpoint, if I want it to be a separate file, I can clearly define that, hey, I need a get hyphen customer.xml or post hyphen order.xml. It understands that philosophy and then basically like start following them accordingly. Okay, and all of these rules they kind of they get injected within your the MuleSoft vibes as it's actually processing this information. Okay, so it's part of its context as part of your system prompt in this case. And let's click on send. And what happens is now it will start making multiple API MCP calls within the MuleSoft provided MCP servers, and it will start generating Mule projects, I mean Mule flows in here, and it will go ahead and generate the Mule flows, the Mule project, API specification, pom.xmls, everything. It will take care of the whole process. And once the whole thing is done, it will say in a green text saying that, hey, I have created the whole thing and this is how it looks like. One second. And notice that whenever it's actually like once the whole thing is done, once it's created the whole project, it's also doing a quick test, making sure that the build actually runs. So the first time it actually ran, notice that there is a build failure. Now what really happened is now the agent is kind of coming back to think like what really went wrong, and it goes back and checks the source code and sees if there is some kind of an issue. Once it's resolving that information, it will tell me like how it can actually fix those details too. And once the whole thing is done, notice like you can see the API project is created and everything that is successful and everything as such. And notice the secure properties have been like clearly like segregated. And you can also run your Mule project just clicking on the run button, and it should be running in a few seconds. Deployed. Just a quick heads up, when you're generating this level of code, you just make sure that giving complete access to your code it's sometimes okay, but just make sure your organization is okay with generating this AI generated code. Okay, just giving a quick heads up, or make sure that your organization is okay with it, only then use the MuleSoft vibes to generate the code. Otherwise, feel free to just make you write the code. Okay, the next thing, of course, you might be thinking like, do I have to just use MuleSoft vibes for this? Not really. You can use like Cloud Code or ChatGPT Codex, or there are some other third-party plugins that you can actually download and use them, like GitHub Copilot per se, and they can generate a similar level of code. But from my analysis, I've noticed that it follows your rules much better and writes these API flows much more efficiently sometimes. Okay. Again, the other ones can be doing a much better job too sometimes, but it all depends on like trial and error. Okay. Um, I hope this answers. This is good.
Yeah, I think we don't have any question, but I have one.
Yes.
Is there any MuleSoft provided any prompt library, like a standard of prompts that just we can fill the form and the prompt is created to create any API?
Currently, I don't think there are any prompt libraries, but I'm sure like within our MuleSoft
Mm.
community, there are like a lot of people who have created some GitHub repositories with some similar kind of prompts in it. Um, I might have to find that. I remember seeing one of them, one of our community members putting in there. So I might have to find it, but not MuleSoft provided though. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Then
All
we
right.
don't have any question. We can continue. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So the next thing is the test case generations, MUnits, right? So I'm pretty sure a lot of you have run into this issue. I mean, you write your API implementation, and then you have to write your MUnits, and a lot of times we kind of fall short of it, right? So here my colleague Rahul kind of like created a quick video of like how this whole thing works. So all it does is basically like just go into the project, and here it is. All he says is a prompt, something like generate unit test cases for your Mule application. And he clearly pointed out like what Mule version he is using and the Java 17 compatibility that he requires. And he kept adding like more details, like what are the requirements that he wants. And he wants me to like mock all the external calls like HTTP, Salesforce, and DB calls and everything, and do not use the real connector configuration in test cases and everything. You can go as deep into your prompts, or you can add it part of your rules, and they can be injected to your project as well. Okay. So once it's done, basically what it does is in the background, it goes ahead and it will read your Mule flows that's already created, and now it will start triggering each one of your MCP tools, and it will generate those flows accordingly. And for people who are interested to see like what is the speed of generation of code, this is how it actually looks like. It generates a block of code, and then basically generates the next block of code, and then basically it confirms the whole code is correctly stretched, and then goes back and then fixes it accordingly. Okay. I'm going to fast forward a bit so that basically we can just see like the final output, how it will look like. Okay. So notice that up here, the once the whole code is generated, it kind of goes through the process of testing the application too. So from now onwards, it will keep testing it, and it will write the summary, and it will keep tracking this to-do list on top of it. Remember earlier I was talking in the process where the AI agent will actually create a to-do list, right? Saying these are the things that I need to complete, and that's exactly what the to-do lists are on the top. Okay. And everything it's completed, it will keep checking them off, saying that I'm done with this, I'm done with this, and things like that. Okay. And notice it's completed, and you can actually see like the green message saying that it's the task is complete, and it has a build success, and it created an MUnit documentation saying that these are the things that I have tested, and these are the scenarios that I have tracked, and everything like that. Okay. Yeah. Uh, Again, as part of your test case generation, just be aware, we are not just talking about MUnits. There are sometimes people who love to write Postman collections instead of MUnits. It's completely okay, and MuleSoft Vibes is equipped in writing. It's kind of equipped with writing the Postman collections too. Okay. All right. Any other questions, thoughts before I jump on to the next one?
Yeah, we can continue. There's no question. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right. So here's the next part, the managing the API. This is where we can actually see like some on a high level of how a headless MuleSoft works like. So what is really headless? It's basically like saying like instead of interacting with the UI, you're kind of interacting with your APIs, and that's it. And let your system kind of handle everything from there. Okay. So in here, these APIs are connected to your MuleSoft environment or the MuleSoft Vibes in this case, and all you're doing is just prompting it saying what I really want to do, and the MuleSoft Vibes will take care of like triggering those APIs and confirming they're complete. Okay. So in here, what we're going to do is we're going to do the managing part of it, meaning like we're going to create an auto discovery ID, we're going to apply some policies, and we're going to monitor them and deploy them as it seems fit. So in this video, what I will be showing is I'm just going to show you auto discovery and how it actually implements part of our application, and how I can actually apply API rate limiting policies. Okay. So on my code up here, I'm going to just say, let's create an API instance and add the auto discovery ID to the project. That's it. What really is doing is it kind of takes the information of creating the API instance, and it triggers the API manager endpoints, and it creates the auto discovery ID. Once it's created, now it goes back to my source code, and it understands what it needs to add. And as part of my rule set, I've clearly said anytime you're writing a configuration property, you need to create it as a global configuration property as a separate file, and then basically create a global element for it. So notice the API auto discovery is created in that particular way. Notice there is the API ID up here, which is in your environment properties. And then if you scroll down, you can see like this is my dev environment, and you can see the API ID has been like configured with it. Cool, right? And once the task is complete, it will tell you like these are the steps that it completed. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to apply the rate limiting policy with saying like a 15 requests per minute. And here is the thing: whatever the prompts that I'm providing up here, I'm not touching any kind of source code. I'm not writing. I'm not touching. I'm not clicking any kind of UI at this case. Everything's kind of handoff, right? So once the whole thing is done, what we'll do is we'll go back to the endpoint platform, click on the API manager, refresh it, and basically you should see the Salesforce System API there. And then notice the API auto discovery ID that's been available up there. And here's a cool thing though. Notice something we call it as a context up here. I didn't tell like what kind of API I have to apply it on. Based on the project it actually is on, it is able to understand the context is about the Salesforce System API and it applies it accordingly. Um, Notice if you go to policies, there is a rate limiting applied and click on edit configurations. There is the 15 requests per minute. And this is basically like what we call it as a headless experience. Okay. Again, next thing is basically you can do something like monitoring. That's basically like you can just ask a diagnostic agent if you're running into issues. There is a diagnostic button as part of your runtime manager. Click on it and it will do a quick analysis and give you a response for it. And whereas for the deployment, all you have to say is deploy the Mule application. It will take your source code and deploy it to the Cloud Hub environment. You can clearly say if it's like a Cloud Hub 1.0 or 2.0 or shared space versus like private space, and it will take care of that deployment for you automatically. All right.
Yep. I have maybe one more question. There's no question in the chat. uh, what if like most of the organization I already have the CI/CD pipelines, okay, right?
Mhm.
And we want to use those CI/CD pipelines using this. If we are developing this API using these charts, can
Mhm.
we integrate those CI/CD with this as well?
CI/CD in the sense like you're
Like
going to write each one of them, or is it like
no, no,
prompt
no.
each one of them?
Let's suppose some organization we have MuleSoft APIs, they have a
Mhm.
CI/CD already written, like for example Azure DevOps,
Yes.
and we are deploying MuleSoft APIs using those,
Mhm.
and we want to keep using that instead of deploying
Oh.
directly from here.
Mhm.
And can we
Yes.
use this?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, Akash. So at that time, what you will be doing is, as part of your rules,
Hmm,
you will clearly tell like
hmm,
if anyone were to say like deploy, the idea is to like push the source code into GitHub repository
hmm,
and create a pull request. Only then it will do a deployment for it. So then you will have to provide the MCP servers to your vibes, and you should be able to perform those actions.
hmm. Okay,
Okay.
perfect, thanks. There's one more question from G2 now.
Mhm.
He's asking any best practices for setting up access for management and roles, given
Mhm.
that it looked like quite elevated roles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, One quick thing to point out: whatever the MuleSoft Vibes is using, it's built on your role, basically. For example, right now, I am an admin to my organization, so I have full access to it. But let's say that I don't have a full access to it. I don't have access to like deploy any kind of a API manager asset or create an API manager asset. MuleSoft Vibes will fail and it will say that, you know what, you don't have access. I will stop it right here. Okay. So it's kind of working on your access. It's not we are not giving any additional access to it.
Cool. I
It's
think
not
yeah.
running on a service account. It's just running on your
Hmm.
account. That's one thing that I would point out. Yeah.
Perfect.
I hope that answers the question.
So
Oh,
there's one comment from him. Sorry. This is more around the enterprise level rolled out. Like yeah, if we wanna roll this development mechanism for all the developers in the enterprise. Yeah.
yeah, I would create some kind of a new role or a team in there, and just make sure you create it as an AI team. Give them the generative UI access, and then followed by give them access to tools as it seems fit. Don't just give access to the whole team as they needed it. Okay. uh, 80% of the time, a lot of people don't use all the functionalities that is provided part of MuleSoft. They don't need it. So just make sure that you're giving permissions of read, and based on their development needs, just enable the developer access, meaning like write access, and followed by the management and everything. That's something, give it to your operational team, so they only do the operational part of it. So things like that, make sure you separate your roles, like AI developer and then the AI management, or operations, something like that. That would be easier way of handling those. Okay.
Cool. I think we can continue. Yeah.
All right. So now we're going to supercharge our MuleSoft vibes. So what is supercharge meaning? Whatever you're seeing right now is basically I'm prompting it, the AI agent is doing it, right? But do we really need to prompt everything? So think about it, something like, hey, if I want to say something like, if it's my organization rules, I'm clearly defining my rules, and basically it's following it, right? What if, just imagine, what if I can say something like, hey, I want to build a new API, and this is what I want you to do. I mean, this is my typical process, and I can just say like, these are the things that I want to do. These are part of my process, and if you can define it, can AI actually pick it up, right? So that's exactly where this supercharging kind of comes into play. So what that really means is, first of all, we'll take our MuleSoft vibes and we're going to equip with the right tools, and that tools are your MCP tools in this case. So the idea of MCP tools is to interact with your external systems up here, okay, or your Maven CI/CD pipelines or API specifications, project templates, whatever it is. You just provide access to the MCP, access to your vibes through MCP tools. The second thing, what we're going to do is we're going to provide rules. What are the do's and what are the don'ts? Clearly defining my organization principles, everything what's working and what needs to work. Okay. The third one is skills. This is what these are something what we call it as a workflow or deterministic scripts that we actually write, or some kind of a set of items that we perform every single part of the task. So think of these are like a reusable capabilities, and that AI can actually trigger them and execute them as an action. Okay. The next one is workflows. These are the common tools that we kind of like, whenever we say something like deploy a Mule application, what are the things that kind of associate with it? And what is the typical AI process look like? And what are the common tools that it actually trigger? You will actually identify them and put them as part of your workflow process up here. All right. So the next one is hooks. This is kind of telling, before I prompt some kind of information, this script needs to be triggered. Or after prompting this, I want you to do a pull request. Or after prompting this, I want you to make sure that the application is running. You're kind of creating custom hooks for your each one of your vibes as it's performing them. And finally, we have something called as a sub agents. This is where everything becomes something called agentic in nature. What that really means is I give it a task and it will start to actually spawn new agents, and it will start doing things in parallel. All right. So this is what the 6 things that we're going to utilize to power up our vibes right now, and we're going to supercharge them super fast. So how do I do this? First of all, let's say that I've kind of created 2 separate skills for this. The first skill that I've created is initializing a Mule project. Imagine something from an operational perspective. Whenever I ask an operations team, hey, I want you to create a new repository or a new Mule project, what they typically do is, hey, I'm going to create a GitHub repository, and I'm going to check within my anypoint platform this asset exists or not. Based on that, I will provision my repository. Then I will create an API specification and then publish it to Exchange. Then I will create a Mule project and then basically push those changes into the GitHub repository as a main branch. Let's say this is a typical workflow for your Mule initialization project, right? Now, what if this is not a task for a human, but this is a task for an AI agent? So what is really happening here is I'm just going to say something like initialize, and I'm going to equip my MuleSoft vibes with GitHub MCP and Anypoint Platform MCP. And next thing is I'm going to give you some kind of a custom script that I've built for the MuleSoft application that triggers the Maven archetype to create a Mule project. Okay, so now let's see how it actually works. Once I will prompt something like initialize, the Mule's AI agent, what it will do is it will go into GitHub and any point platform, checking if there is this asset available. GitHub we can actually use using something like a GitHub CLI versus like we can also use a GitHub MCP tool. In this case, basically, this is a deterministic flow. Whatever you're seeing up here, it's a very deterministic flow. I've converted this whole thing into a shell script. Doing so, what happens is this checks whatever it's doing. It will do part of like one single command, and it will compare. It will generate the whole thing for me automatically. Okay. So what it does, it will do a GitHub check. It will do a anypoint platform check, and then basically it will provision in a GitHub repository for me. One. Next thing, it will create an API specification automatically using the template that I provided part of my Exchange, and then it will publish it to Exchange, saying that this is what I have. And then finally, we're going to generate a Mule application using the Maven archetype, and then we're going to implement the changes of what my API specification has, and then we're going to push it to my repository automatically. So this is the full process that we're going to see it in as part of my first skill. Okay, let's see how that actually looks. So I'm going to start. I'm going to say something like start a Mule project, and I'm going to say K2 Salesforce system API up here. And as soon as I do this, what will happen is the MuleSoft Vibe will understand this is a project for MuleSoft Init V2. This is my skill that I've created. It loads into the context now. And now it will start triggering the actions. The first thing what it does is it checks, am I logged into my GitHub account? One. In this case, yes, it's able to confirm that. The second thing is every time it's kind of performing some kind of an action, notice it's asking me to approve it. There is this auto approve button, as you can see there. Every time it's kind of it's keeping asking me like whether am I okay to trigger this or not. And the whole thing, it will go through the whole process. Notice that it creates an API specification up here. It's publishing it to the Exchange, and then followed by it also created the Mule project for me in the background. It's creating the Mule project for me, and the whole thing is done right now. Once I click on the green statement, notice that it created a GitHub repository up here. And notice how it's created, vibes/init. Okay, that's my branching name right now. And it also created an API specific API documentation for me in the bottom saying like what my Mule project looks like. And here's a cool part. It already comes with the Postman collection automatically built in there. Right? And it has the implementation for a health endpoint directly. Everything's kind of like taken care of here. And here is a cool part. The API specification that I published into Exchange, notice that it actually has like 1.0.0. It's been published in there and it's utilizing that details. And we can go back to our GitHub repository now. And what we will do is, here is the cool part that I will tell you what the init skill can actually do. Init skill, what it did was, it was just initializing the repositories for you. Here comes the next skill. What I want as part of this next skill is, I want it to implement a particular functionality. So I will go into my issues. I'm going to click on new issue. I'm going to provide the details towards what is the detail that I want to do. Add accounts endpoint. And basically, as part of my Salesforce system API, I would like to implement this functionality. And here are the query parameters that I need. I need something like limit page, and then basically like something like name. And I can say like how that endpoint needs to look like and things like that. Here, the endpoint name is not really required, but this is something as part of, you can actually provide it, or if you don't, it will understand based on the context. Now, once you click on create, what it does is the issue is now created. All I have to do is now just go back to my MuleSoft Vibes and tell something like implement and then issue 1 in K2 Salesforce System API. And here's the thing, as soon as I provide it, now it will pick up my second skill that I have created, and that's called the Mule issue workflow. And this issue workflow has a clear set of workflow that I have defined in there, saying that one, anytime I'm providing you some kind of issue details, I want you to fetch the details first, read the details, and then followed by execute the actions. Notice that it's actually fetching the API specification right now. And then basically what it does is it starts making the changes to the API specification automatically. 1 second. Let me just go back a second and let me just put this in slow mode so I can show you like how that actually looks like. So notice that here what happened is, as part of my the MuleSoft organization, what we are in like a flow-based pricing model. So I've clearly told my as part of my skill, I told the agent, if you're on any kind of a flow based model, I want you to execute these things in a particular way. I want you to implement it in a particular way. The API specifications for each endpoint, it will be charged. So what we are doing is we are using something like a URI parameter. And I said, as part of the URI parameter, I'm clearly telling there is an enum that I've added for health. Now I'm doing it for accounts. So I will say slash accounts. And followed by there is something like a limits and query parameters where I need to add. I'll just provide the details automatically. And this is everything part of the skill. I'm not writing any piece of code up here. Okay. So once the whole thing is done, now it will publish the API specification to Exchange. And then now it will pick up that newly published asset. And notice here what happened is it updated my version to 1.1.0. What that really means is it's following the semantic versioning format that the MuleSoft has been recommending for us. And it publishes it. Now it goes into the implementation mode. It will clone the repository on my local system, and it will start implementing based on the source code what it has. Okay, let me just put this back in the regular speed. Oops, my bad. So what's really doing is in the background, it's kind of writing, it's taking the API specifications, generating the code and everything. And notice one key thing up here, as it's writing it, the MuleSoft Vibes has been running into a bit of an error up here. So it's trying to create a pull request, but it seems to be failing for some reason. So all I did was is I kind of prompted it saying that, hey, what happened? And it kind of fixed itself. Not only that, once the whole thing is created, here is a cool thing. It will create a PR into my it will create a pull request within my GitHub. And notice how detailed the pull request details are. Like it's saying like, hey, the OpenAPI specification has been upgraded to 1.1.0, and here are the things that I've added. And then for the Mule application, what are the changes that it did? And it kind of added everything as part of it. So, and you can see the changes that it actually made too. And everything from one single prompt, by the way. So what you really saw up here is it's bit of an agentic point of it. Okay. So all I did is I just provided it as a kind of a task to it, or a prompt or a goal in this case. The goal is to like implement a particular task, and then basically it kind of took up that as a task and then started implementing everything there. Now, let's say something like let's take a bit more complex scenario, something like end-to-end testing. How does that actually look? So end-to-end testing meaning like what we do is we kind of go into our Mule application, identify all the endpoints, and then basically we trigger each single of the endpoints. Whatever the results that we are getting, the QA tester, what they do is they kind of go into Salesforce confirming like each one of these things are created really or exists as it needs. Take a screenshot of it, and then basically they write a report, basically, right? What if you can actually give it to an AI agent for this? This is exactly what it does. So as soon as all I'm going to say is smoke test it. In this case, what it does is it will go check my endpoints on the application level and then OpenAPI specification level, both of them. And then it will start triggering each one of the endpoints. And then whatever the results it's getting, it saves them in a particular folder. And then now it will open Salesforce web browser, and it will start checking each one of the requirements. Is this there? Is this there? And everything like that. It will take a screenshot of it, and it will add it part of my report as well. So how does it actually look like? This is how it does. So notice I'm going to go back to my Exchange up here, to the Vibes again. And in here, I've created something called the global skill for a Mule smoke test. I'm going to click on enter, smoke test this application. And that's it. The MuleSoft Vibes will kick this particular skill right now, and it will start reading the MuleSoft project, what it has. It identifies the endpoints, and it also checks whether the application is running. If it's running, great. Now all I have to do is just hit that endpoint. Notice the first time it hit, it was searching for /API/health, since that's mentioned part of my API specification. But my implementation has a different endpoint. So what it does is it kind of updates the its execution workflow by itself, and it will start hitting that right endpoint now. Notice that once it hits it, notice there is a response it actually gets, like health response.json. Here is the status code, and here is the response it got. And it starts executing for each one of the actions, each one of the endpoints in there. Once the whole thing is done, it starts to take a screenshot of it. In order to take a screenshot, it needs to open a browser. So I provided access to a Playwright MCP server that enables it to open a web browser and interact with the all of these things. Okay. In here, in order for me to give access to Salesforce to do this testing, I need to log in because I don't want to provide my credentials to AI. So it will just open the web browser and it will ask me to log in. And that's exactly what it's saying. Please log in into your Salesforce in the Playwright browser. So what it did was it automatically opened a browser and it opened the Salesforce system in there. I will just provide my credentials in there. Click on login, and then basically once I'm done with it, it asks me to say something like I'm logged in, and then basically it will pick up from there. So I'll just go back up here. I'm going to say logged in and press enter. That's it. Now what it does is it will start triggering each one of this requests, meaning whatever the API, the resource IDs or the Salesforce IDs, it's able to retrieve part of my existing endpoints. It will start opening each one of them. It will take a screenshot of it, and it will save the details as part of its information. And again, there could be a point of failure for any of these things. Whenever that happens, all you have to do is take a screenshot of it, provide it to the AI agent saying that this is what it happened, and it will be able to figure it out. Okay. So next thing, there is this postman collection. I have also added part of the script or the skill saying that anytime you're kind of generating this particular report or smoke testing it, whatever the endpoints that you're using, I want you to create a postman collection of it so that I can actually review what really went wrong. Okay. For this one, I am saying for now, I don't want you to create any kind of postman collection. So I'm going to click on skip. But rest of the information, then it will create an HTML report for me. In order for when it's creating the HTML report, notice there is some kind of an error that happened up on your right hand side. So I told retry, it seems like there is an error. I will take a screenshot of it, post it up here, and I'm pressing enter. And that's all. What happens is now it takes a second and it will write the report. And here's the report, how it looks like. And here's the cool part of this whole skill though. As it's running into errors, it's also updating its skill saying that, okay, next time whenever I run into this error, this is the thing that I need to fix. So I'm adding it part of the skill so that I don't have to do something new for it automatically again. And let's go back up here and notice that when you click on this, each one of these endpoints, you will see like a screenshot, whatever the request that it sent, what is the response that it got, and whatever the Salesforce confirmation it needs. Everything's kind of taken part of the one single flow. And that's the end of the smoke testing. So typically the smoke testing takes about let's say that if you have 20 to 30 endpoints, it takes about 2 to 3 days or even further down, even longer, right? And then putting together the report and everything, it will take a long time. These are the places where this kind of skills kind of enable you to complete tasks much faster. Okay. All right. For people who are interested to learn more about it or read more about how they have built these things, I've put them in the Medium links. Feel free to click on them and go through them. You would find the detailed information of all of these things, and you will also find the skills as part of my GitHub repository. Okay. And of course, feel free to follow our another integration blog. That's our MuleSoft resource for Medium articles and everything. And we have some great content in there. That being said, any questions? I know I haven't asked this question in a second, so any questions?
Yeah, one question I have, Sravan,
Yes.
regarding the testing that you've shown. So this testing that you have done, this is possible for local app deployed APIs as well as the APIs which is deployed on Cloud Hub, correct?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, perfect.
But again, this is something that I'm using only for dev environment. Let me be very clear about this. It's only being used for dev environment. I would never right away until you feel confident about it. Okay. And especially when dealing with something like a post and then something like delete operations, performing them in a production environment is very, very scary. Okay. So just be aware of what your AI agents can do and cannot do. If you're giving complete access to your AI agents, to your full project, and you're asking it to test it, of course it will go ahead and trigger each one of the endpoints in there and says you know what, I've deleted this information and I can confirm that this is deleted.
Yeah.
and that could be scary,
Yeah.
right?
Again, yeah, there should be guardrails, correct? Yeah.
Exactly. Uh, just make sure that whatever the AI is generating, you kind of confirm it and verify it's kind of doing it properly. Okay.
Of course. Yeah.
But thank you for bringing that up, Akash. Yeah.
Yeah, guys, if you have any question, ping on the chat, or do Shravan, we need to open the unmute
Uh,
them all. I think Anurag mentioned that.
right. One second. One more thing before. One more thing before. Actually, in the meantime, you can actually enable everyone with moderator access, and they can start talking.
Sure.
Just in case, let me just give them what's coming next.
I think someone you can give the access. I think it's not showing to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, let me check it.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you so much, Savan, for that insightful session. And I'm sure everyone found tremendous value in the practical examples or experiences that you have shared today. And I would like to thank you, everyone, from both the London and Detroit communities for joining us uh, and making this a truly global meetup. So, if you enjoyed today's session, please stay connected through our meetup groups and watch out for upcoming events. And
Mhm.
we have several exciting sessions planned around AI, APIs, integration architecture, using Fabric, and the future of the enterprise integration. So, finally, if you are interested in presenting any session or uh, uh, every meetup group always find some sponsors as well. They are always looking out for the sponsors. If you are local to London or Detroit, and if your organization is happy to sponsor any events in person, or if you would like to share a success story in any of the meetup, we would like or we would love to hear from you. So thank you everyone for joining today. Huge thanks to Savan for making it success.
Sure. Thank you, Anurag, for hosting the session actually, and thank you very much for giving a chance to show all these beautiful things that we can do with MuleSoft Vibes, right? And
Thanks. Thanks.
oh, team, just a small thing. Everyone, please stay back for a few more minutes if you don't mind. We would love to take a picture with everyone so that we
Yes.
can post this in our MuleSoft community channel and as well as the LinkedIn. All right.
So if
Just
everyone
give us
can
like
switch
a
on
couple more
their
minutes.
cameras, I think,
Mhm.
are you able to give the access someone? Because it's not showing to me.
Mhm. I was able to do it.
Yeah, I've given the moderator. Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
So I think everyone can switch on their cameras and you can take the group picture.
Yes. Uh,
So
while people are turning on their cameras, one quick thing to point out, team. We have a few sessions coming up next. For the London, we have like a deep dive into Agent Fabric. It's going to be a very exciting session for everyone. And that's happening on July 22nd, 2026. And whereas for the MuleSoft Meetup Detroit, we have a max summer vacation exploring MuleSoft Omni Gateway on June 26th. I'll be presenting and I'll be like talking about the complete Omni experience. And it's going to be a very exciting session again. So, and one more thing, if you want to join in and explore other kind of meetups, please come into our MuleSoft meetups, meetups.mulesoft.com site and just follow them. And the last but not least, actually not last, but we also have a LinkedIn page for the MuleSoft community. Feel free to join in, and we have some exciting updates coming in there every single day. All right. And finally, yeah, join us on the MuleSoft community Slack channel as well. We love to have like a lot of questions. People, if you're running into any kind of issues, if you're running into any kind of some fun suggestions, or if you want to do something like this MuleSoft meetups, the Slack is like a best place for us to identify us and just ping us, you know. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to use our technical chat. And uh, I believe Anurag and I are kind of very active on the MuleSoft community channels. Feel free to like ping us, and we will be able to answer to you. All right.
yeah. And the guys who are not able to switch on the cameras, I think there is some issue. Even I was facing the same before joining this meetup. So if
yeah,
you can
same here.
refresh, yeah,
Mhm.
if you can refresh the page and join back, I think it will sort out the issue.
All right. 1 second while I let me
So I think
stop sharing
yeah,
my screen so people
yeah.
can.
Stop sharing. Correct.
Yeah.
So we can take the screenshot. Sorry, I couldn't
Hi,
switch on the
Dan.
camera. I don't know. Uh, so I will stay like this. Sorry.
Hi, Supriya.
Hi, Sravan.
Hi. Oh, we have two
Yeah, logging
Supriyas.
off and
Hi,
back on
Mohammed.
again worked.
Yeah.
Sadeep. Hi, Sadeep.
Hi.
Sadeep.
Hi,
Sorry.
Sudeep.
Hi, Sai
Hi.
Supriya.
I'm
Hey,
sorry
hi.
if I mispronounced your name. Hi, Mortimer.
Guys who
everyone.
didn't switch on, please switch on quickly so we can take a picture.
Camera even not working for me. I think I
No
done
problem.
same.
No worries.
So,
Wait.
Sravan, I think you can take a screenshot quickly.
Sure. 1 second. Um, everyone smile.
Smile.
1 second. Let me get one more. Smile again. Okay, I got a picture. One. And see what's going on. Oh, someone's having a party. Nice. Um, got the screenshots. Yeah. Anurag, I will share that screenshots with you, and
Yeah, sure,
I
sure.
think we can
Yeah.
stop recording the session now. And
Sure.
yeah,